The samurai, the warrior class of feudal Japan, are perhaps the most iconic symbols of Japanese history and culture. Known for their strict code of conduct, martial prowess, and unwavering loyalty, the samurai were more than just warriors. They were scholars, administrators, and key figures in the shaping of Japan's political and cultural landscape. This video provides a detailed analysis of the samurai, tracing their rise during the Heian period, 794 to 1185, their dominance in the feudal system through the Kamakura, Muromachi, and Edo periods, and their eventual decline during the Meiji Restoration of the late 19th century. This video will explore their origins, military strategies, weapons, armor, philosophies, and how their legacy continues to influence modern Japanese culture. The origins of the samurai, Heian period, 794 to 1185. The rise of the samurai. The Heian period marked the beginning of what would become a highly stratified and militarized feudal system. Initially, Japan was ruled by a centralized government under the emperor, who was regarded as a divine ruler. During this time, however, regional clans began to gain military power as local governors and aristocrats sought to protect their land from bandits and rival clans. The term samurai originally referred to individuals who served as retainers to powerful landowners. They were primarily mounted archers, skilled in using the bow and arrow, yumi, while on horseback. These early samurai were tasked with defending the estates of their lords, collecting taxes, and maintaining order. As the imperial court in Kyoto became increasingly disconnected from the provincial regions, a new warrior class began to rise in prominence. These warriors, driven by the need to defend their land and secure their livelihood, would evolve into the samurai. The first significant clash that showcased the samurai's growing power was the Genpei War, 1180 to 1185, a conflict between the Taira and Minamoto clans that resulted in the establishment of Japan's first shogunate. Kamakura period, 1185 to 1333, the establishment of the samurai class. The Genpei War culminated in the victory of the Minamoto clan and the establishment of the Kamakura shogunate in 1192 under Minamoto no Yoritomo. This event marked the formal rise of the samurai as the ruling class in Japan. The shogunate system effectively decentralized power from the emperor, transferring authority to military leaders or shoguns. The samurai became the backbone of this new government, serving as enforcers of the shogun's authority. During the Kamakura period, the samurai's role expanded beyond military duties. They were granted land in return for their service and were expected to govern these territories, collect taxes, and administer justice. Samurai culture began to develop its own unique code of conduct, which emphasized loyalty to one's lord, daimyo, personal honor, and military discipline. The Mongol invasions of Japan in 1274 and 1281 further solidified the samurai's importance. The samurai fought fiercely to repel the Mongol forces, aided by the legendary kamikaze, divine winds, that destroyed much of the invading fleet. These invasions demonstrated the samurai's martial prowess and their critical role in defending Japan from foreign threats. The Bushido Code, the soul of the samurai. Origins of Bushido. By the time of the Kamakura period, the samurai had developed a code of conduct known as Bushido, the way of the warrior. While there is no single definitive text that outlines the Bushido Code, it was a synthesis of various religious, philosophical, and cultural influences, including Confucianism, Shintoism, and Zen Buddhism. The core principles of Bushido emphasized loyalty. Absolute loyalty to one's lord or master was considered the highest virtue. A samurai would rather die than betray their master. Honor. A samurai's honor was paramount. To lose one's honor was worse than death, and many samurai would commit seppuku, ritual suicide, to avoid disgrace. Courage. Samurai were expected to show no fear in the face of danger. Courage in battle and in daily life was essential to the samurai way. Rectitude. This principle referred to the samurai's sense of justice and moral righteousness. A samurai was expected to act with integrity and uphold justice. Benevolence. Although the samurai were warriors, They were also expected to show compassion and mercy when appropriate. Respect, courtesy, and respect for others, especially one's superiors, were integral to the samurai's behavior. Zen Buddhism and the samurai. Zen Buddhism played a significant role in shaping the samurai ethos. Zen teachings emphasized mindfulness, discipline, and the acceptance of death, all of which resonated with the samurai's martial lifestyle. The samurai embraced Zen practices like meditation, zazen, to cultivate mental clarity and focus, which were essential for success in battle. The samurai's acceptance of death was a key aspect of their fearlessness in combat. By acknowledging the inevitability of death and embracing it as part of life, the samurai were able to fight without hesitation or fear. Samurai weapons and armor. The katana, the soul of the samurai. The katana, often referred to as the soul of the samurai, is perhaps the most famous weapon associated with these warriors. The katana was a curved, single-edged sword, typically between 60 to 80 centimeters, 24 to 31 inches in length. Its unique design allowed for quick and fluid movements, making it ideal for close combat. The process of forging a katana was an art form in itself. Master swordsmiths used a technique known as folding to strengthen the blade by repeatedly hammering and folding the steel. This process removed impurities and created a blade that was both strong and flexible. The katana was not just a weapon, but also a symbol of the samurai's honor and social status. Samurai were rarely seen without their katana, and it was considered a deep personal loss if they were to lose or damage their sword. Tachi. Before the widespread use of the katana, the tachi was the preferred sword of the samurai during the Heian and Kamakura periods. The tachi was longer and more curved than the katana, designed primarily for use on horseback. Wakizashi. The wakizashi was a shorter companion sword, typically worn alongside the katana. Together, the katana and wakizashi formed the daisho, meaning big little, symbolizing the samurai's social power and warrior status. The wakizashi was often used in close quarters combat or for the ritual act of seppuku. Yari, spear. The yari was a long spear used extensively by samurai, especially in battlefield formations. The yari was versatile and could be used for thrusting or slashing, and its length allowed samurai to engage enemies from a distance. Naginata, polearm. The naginata was a pole weapon with a curved blade, favored by both samurai and onabugisha, female warriors. The naginata was effective against cavalry and could be used to sweep an opponent off their feet. Yumi, bow. Archery was a key skill for early samurai, who were originally mounted archers. The yumi, a longbow, was used in both ceremonial practices and warfare. It required great strength and skill to use effectively, especially while on horseback. 3.3 Samurai Armor Oyoroi. During the early samurai period, the oyoroi was the most common form of armor. It consisted of large, heavy plates of leather or metal, designed to protect the warrior during mounted combat. The armor was often lacquered to protect against the elements and decorated with intricate designs. Domaru. As warfare evolved and samurai fought more frequently on foot, the domaru became more popular. Lighter and more flexible than the oyoroi, the domaru allowed for greater mobility while still offering substantial protection. Kabuto, helmet. The kabuto was an iconic part of samurai armor, featuring elaborate designs that often included crests or horns. The kabuto was designed to protect the head while also intimidating the enemy. Many samurai customized their kabuto with personal insignia or symbols of their clan. Tsunete and kote. Tsunete were shin guards and kote were arm guards, both of which were essential for protecting the limbs during battle. These were often made of metal plates or chainmail attached to a cloth backing. Military tactics and strategies of the samurai. Four-mounted combat and early samurai warfare. In the early days of the samurai, particularly during the Heian and Kamakura periods, mounted combat was the primary mode of warfare. Samurai would ride into battle on horseback, using their yumi, bows, to shoot arrows at the enemy from a distance. This form of combat was heavily influenced by the kyujutsu, the art of archery, which was a highly respected skill. Samurai on horseback would also engage in single combat, known as individual duels. These duels were often highly ritualized, with each warrior announcing their name, lineage, and achievements before engaging the enemy. The evolution of foot soldiers. As warfare evolved in Japan, especially during the Sengoku period, 1467 to 1600, the role of the foot soldier, ashigaru, became more prominent. The samurai began to fight more frequently on foot, often leading large armies of ashigaru. These foot soldiers were equipped with spears, yari, and arquebuses, matchlock guns, which became increasingly important after their introduction to Japan by Portuguese traders in the 16th century. The importance of formations. Samurai warfare was not just about individual combat, but also about strategic formations. The crane wing formation, kakuyoku, fish scale formation, gyorin, and wedge formation, sakaki, were some of the tactics used by samurai commanders to maximize the effectiveness of their troops on the battlefield. The samurai were also skilled at siege warfare, as demonstrated in battles like the Siege of Osaka Castle, 1614 to 1615. They used a combination of archers, firearms, and traditional weapons to breach fortifications and overwhelm the enemy. Naval warfare. While the samurai are primarily known for their land-based combat skills, they also engaged in naval warfare during key conflicts such as the Battle of Dan no Ura, 1185, during the Genpei War. Samurai naval tactics included boarding enemy ships for hand-to-hand combat and using archers to rain down arrows from a distance. The Sengoku period, 1467 to 1600. The Warring States era, a period of constant warfare. The Sengoku period was marked by over a century of constant civil war and political upheaval. During this time, regional daimyo, feudal lords, vied for power, resulting in large-scale battles and a highly militarized society. The samurai, as the military elite, were at the center of this conflict. Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu. The end of the Sengoku period saw the rise of three legendary samurai leaders who played pivotal roles in the unification of Japan. Oda Nobunaga. Known for his innovative use of firearms and his ruthless tactics, Nobunaga was instrumental in breaking the power of the Buddhist warrior monks and laying the groundwork for the unification of Japan. Toyotomi Hideyoshi. A brilliant strategist and diplomat, Hideyoshi succeeded in uniting much of Japan under his control. He also implemented policies that restricted the samurai class, such as the sword hunt, which disarmed the peasantry and solidified the samurai status as the ruling military class. Tokugawa Ieyasu. After Hideyoshi's death, Tokugawa Ieyasu emerged victorious in the Battle of Sekigahara, 1600, establishing the Tokugawa shogunate. Under his rule, Japan entered the Edo period, a time of relative peace and stability that lasted over 250 years. The Edo period, 1603 to 1868, samurai in a time of peace. The role of the samurai in Edo, Japan. With the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate, Japan entered a long period of peace and isolation known as the Edo period. During this time, the samurai no longer engaged in constant warfare, but were instead tasked with administrative duties and maintaining social order. The samurai became bureaucrats, scholars, and teachers, adhering to Confucian ideals of duty and responsibility. Despite the lack of warfare, they continued to train in martial arts and study the principles of Bushido. The decline of the samurai class. The prolonged peace of the Edo period led to the gradual decline of the samurai's military role. Many samurai found themselves in financial difficulties as their stipends were reduced over time. The rigid social structure of the Tokugawa period prevented upward mobility, leading to growing discontent among the lower-ranking samurai. The Meiji Restoration, 1868, the end of the samurai era, the fall of the shogunate. The Meiji Restoration in 1868 marked the end of the Tokugawa shogunate and the beginning of Japan's modernization. The new Meiji government sought to create a modern, centralized state, modeled after Western nations. This included the dismantling of the feudal system and the abolition of the samurai class. In 1876, the government issued a decree prohibiting the wearing of swords in public, a symbolic act that marked the end of the samurai's role as a distinct social class. The Satsuma Rebellion, 1877. The Satsuma Rebellion, led by Saigo Takamori, was the last stand of the samurai. Disillusioned by the loss of their privileges and status, many former samurai joined the rebellion against the Meiji government. However, the modernized imperial army, equipped with Western weapons and tactics, ultimately crushed the rebellion. The legacy of the samurai. Influence on modern Japan. Despite the abolition of the samurai class, the legacy of the samurai continues to influence modern Japan. The principles of Bushido, particularly loyalty, honor, and discipline, are still revered in Japanese culture. These values have permeated various aspects of Japanese society, from corporate culture to martial arts. Samurai in popular culture. The image of the samurai has become a global cultural icon, immortalized in literature, films, and video games. Samurai figures like Miyamoto Musashi, Japan's most famous swordsman, and legendary battles like Sekigahara continue to capture the imagination of people worldwide. The samurai were more than just warriors. They were a class of individuals who shaped the course of Japanese history through their military prowess, philosophical ideals,